Hey, Gavax here. With every yearly title, they can't always fit things in, whether it can't make it due to budget, time, whatever it is. So, with MLB The Show 20, it is a yearly title, and we're going to go through 6 things that still aren't in the game. Now, somebody in my last comment section said, hey, I haven't gotten this game since 11, should I get it? I think it is, perfectly fine, right? If you take a few years off of a sports game, it's kind of like waiting for, a big AAA studio, a new Red Dead, a new Grand Theft Auto, that kind of stuff that only comes once every few years, and there's huge improvements, obviously, from then to now. But the 6 things that won't be in MLB The Show 20, classic teams like NBA 2K has. So, there are going to be a ton of legends. You're going to see, we've had them fleshed out. We got Honest Wagner late in the year last year. They brought a lot of guys into the game. Now, this year's legends are focused mostly around 90s and 2000s guys. We've seen Ortiz, Rivera. We've seen a lot of guys that they're bringing back. They still have some to reveal, but, we still don't have, entire rosters. And that would be kind of sweet to have, play now with those rosters, bring those rosters into some sort of event in Diamond Dynasty where it'd be, one decade's team maybe, or 1 year's World Series winner versus another one. Now, you don't have to have all 25, because even NBA 2K, there are some players that kind of fill in that are just kind of made up too. So you wouldn't have to have all 25, because that would be a lot of people to get, and it is obviously harder to get that many more people on a baseball team versus an NBA roster who's only got 12 deep. So that is obviously to be forgiven, but that is something we aren't going to see. Obviously, they'll do all-decade stuff like they've done in the past, but more theme-based classic teams would be nice to see. All right, secondly, the number 2 thing that's still missing from MLB The Show 20. I'm going to go and say a good base running simulation. Now, my experience in 19 and 20 in the beta, the controls around the bases are still clunky. Runners don't react well enough. It still has a hard time beating MVP 05. MVP 05 had better base running, felt like control. Now, some of this has to do with something like the base running cheese that we've seen over time in MLB The Show, and they've kind of cut back on it since 15-16 era. So that is probably one of the reasons why it's not super reactive, but it could be better. Sending players, they still sometimes don't react to you wanting to send them home, advance on a base, they go the wrong way, the guy doesn't understand that you want him to go forward, and kind of dives back to the bag. The step-off battles are still there, so somebody can continually lead off, and you have to keep stepping off, because you can't throw them out. There should be some sort of way of something, because these were literally 30-minute battles. It's terrible. People keep leading off, you have to keep stepping off, because it's basically a free base that you're giving to anybody with decent speed if they get that extra one-step battle. So there should be some way of throwing them out after 3 of their extended leads in a row that you're to throw over. Just make them labelly picked off, or give them the ability to get a really bad jump if you've already picked them off or stepped off a few times and they've had to get back to the base. And some way of punishing the runner from basically spamming that extra step where you can't throw them off. So that's something that needs to happen. The base running definitely needs to be looked at going into next year or even later this year with patches. So that is a problem. Maybe the skill gap in stealing is a little bit low, because all you have to do is hit the L2 button to queue it up. You don't have to time it that much. You can time it a little bit. So I don't know, maybe add a little ability to get around the tag more than just going the different sides of the base. But, base running, we'll see. It's pretty basic, and really, I do think the batting that they focused on this year was more important than the base running. This is kind of maybe down further on the list, below pitching too, below fielding. But base running, hopefully they'll take a look at it and improve a little bit, especially those step-off battles that just make you feel like giving up on the game. Number 3 thing that won't be in MLB The Show 20, create a stadium or more generic stadiums when you relocate your franchise. Something new to the franchise this year, well, newish, relocating the franchise, something you couldn't do last year. Now you're going to have to use, the ballparks we all know, so it kind of takes away from the realism a little bit. Some people were complaining about that, and I can see why. MVP 05 had the ability to upgrade a stadium in their franchise mode through their owner mode, and that was really cool. 15 years ago had it. So create a stadium, I do believe would add a lot to this game. Maybe they're holding back on working it for next generation to bring it onto that kind of console, but I'd imagine this video game will also be on the old generation for a few series, just like the last generation Switch had. So create a stadium, hopefully something in the future that they could bring to MLB The Show. Next on the list, number 4, perfect pitching. Now, pitching itself, it is a very finicky thing, right? Have you ever nailed like the inputs perfectly user inputted, and like your curveball that you meant to go, a foot below the strike zone, 6 inches below like the strike zone, gets hung in the middle and puts out for a home run? So some sort of perfect pitching situation where they allow the user input to matter more. Now the beta, it was pretty easy to locate with high end guys when you missed your mark, right? The ball generally ended up where you were as long as their stamina wasn't crazy. So yes, the high-end guys will spot it near where you were, but like I think even with low control, I want the meter to move really fast. I want it hard to do, but I want the ability to perfectly, user nail it. Like I want it to be super hard, right? But the higher guys with higher controls can have the meter to go easier, have the green bar, the spot to hit easier to do, and obviously with the higher ball on base, the ball won't float away from you, even if you miss it slightly, or won't float away from you much at all with that higher walks per 9 stat. So perfect pitching is something that I believe needs to be in the game to allow user input to kind of like matter, right? I don't want to hang a ball that I mean to go below the zone, or I don't want to throw something in the middle when I put to the edge, especially if I nail my input perfectly. I get it. Control is a stat, and I do believe control can be done differently. Like I said, through if you slightly miss, then it can, the ball can hang a little bit worse with guys, or you can throw it way out of the strike zone, so it's easy to determine that it isn't a strike for the opponent's batter. So that's kind of what I want. Hopefully they can help us out for the players that have better timing, better pitching, so that way it actually matters a little bit more user skill, user input for pitching. The number 5 thing that still is an MLB The Show 20, expansion capability in franchise. Now you're just stuck. You can't go to like a 32, 34, 36 team league. Now I don't know how in demand that is, but it is something that I've seen out there demanded, a little bit more customizable in your franchise like that. Like I get my franchise fix from Out of the Park Baseball. I play the heck out of that game. So like this kind of thing, it's not as like, the franchise MLB Show is obviously going to be the runner-up to that, because that is a very robust, in-depth type of game, and I don't know if MLB Show will ever get to that depth, and I don't know if they want to, because that is for really us stat nerds. So something like expansion capability in franchise is really nice, having that ability to kind of customize your league, to kind of like maybe do custom drafts, add a lot, like they already have a little bit of this in the game. I'm just kind of spitballing off the top of my head there, but Out of the Park Baseball is kind of like the gold standard, which MLB The Show franchise should try and achieve to, with all their ability to make roster moves. They're kind of like Rule 5. So I'm trying to think, MLB The Show, how much do I actually want in-depth in their franchise mode? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. How much in-depth in MLB The Show, the franchise, do you really want? Or after a while, it would be too cumbersome. They could make like a easier, slimmed-down mode, and then kind of like a more in-depth mode for the nerds to kind of deal with a lot of the problems that happen when you're managing a franchise online. Because I think when you add gameplay to the depth of something like Out of the Park, that right there is like a gold star team. That is the Dennis Reynolds, a 5-star man of video games. So, more depth, expansion capability, something that is not going to be in MLB The Show 20. And finally, number 6 is online franchise, something that they took away a couple years back to the chagrin of the community. Now, online franchise, Madden, I can see it working. Baseball, I know they had limited schedules and stuff. Baseball, I've never had an online franchise in MLB The Show, so I don't know like how important it is and how great it is, because I would just never participate in it. I know the community that was around it really liked it, but from what the developer said and from what I saw online, the community of the online franchise mode in MLB The Show was very small. It wasn't that as robust, as big as like online Madden. Like, whereas Madden kind of like launched and really kind of like came into its own with online, around franchise, around regs, around head-to-head. I didn't really see that as much in MLB The Show. You didn't see as much of those people kind of like a few years ago. Even though, it was there, I just didn't see like the community kind of form. So maybe they were justified as you don't see a ton of outrage year to year, but it could just be a silent majority, or people that kind of had it, now they're disappointed, now they no longer buy it. But the sales are up for MLB The Show dramatically year over year, every year for the last few ones. So the online franchise doesn't seem a big priority for them, for good reasons, because, the people show that they don't really care if it's in or if it's out, because they're still going to buy, because, this is the best baseball simulator on the market. It is a great game. It is great for like, hopefully next year with the perfect. It is perfect for all that. And really the best thing we have, we've tried, MLB tried to do a game. MLB The Show is going to come to Xbox next year. So There it is. Those are the 6 things that still won't be in MLB Show 20. Let me know what you guys got, whether you guys think these should be in what order, what you think should be done first, what do you think they should bring back, what good ideas for this show going forward they need to do. But thanks for watching Call to Action. I'll see you tomorrow.